Welcome to the Love of the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Bell, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Brian Broaddus. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation, 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. He's also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. And Brian, we are here into the practice week, and it is not without a little bit of drama. We're recording this on Thursday night as the Detroit Lions and Kansas City Chiefs are tied up at 7 currently on Thursday Night Football. The NFL season is underway. But the Cowboys, we knew that Sam Williams entering this week was dealing with a little bit of turf toe. Donovan Wilson has been coming back from his injury. But now you're starting to see some cracks on the offensive line. It was the first practice of the week. Tyler Smith, your left guard, has to leave practice with tightness in his hamstring. They had an MRI done there, confirmed that it was a hamstring strain. He has not practiced the first 2 days of this week. He's been working with Britt Brown and the training staff on trying to work back. But his status is a little unclear right now. Mike McCarthy said if he's able to do the walkthrough, they're going to try to make him, they're going to try to have him out there. And then just pop it up on the injury report Thursday with an ankle. It listed as limited in practice. It's the most predictable participant on the injury report every year. It's Tyron Smith. So, Brian, this is your left tackle now, who already has trouble with pass rushers like Kayvon Thibodeaux, who he's going to see this weekend. Those guys who can threaten with speed on the edge and have those inside moves. You've already got Tyron Smith now a little banged up. You don't know if you're going to have Tyler Smith, which I personally think would mean if he's out, I think you're looking at Chuma Edoga, which I don't necessarily trust Edoga a whole lot. I'm starting to get a little nervous here, Brian, about the potential matchup with that left side of the offensive line looking a little banged up.
It is very, it's a situation that going in with the way that Mike McCarthy plays and doesn't play the starters in the preseason, you're figuring, okay, we're going to have the health of the offensive line. Everything's going to be fine, dandy. And then as you get through practice or through a couple of days, all of a sudden guys start dealing with, I was told that the Tyron Smith ankle injury was minor. I know that likely that Tyler Smith is going to be, as you mentioned, with Britt Brown, likely till Saturday. I don't anticipate Tyler Smith practicing tomorrow. We'll see how things go. You mentioned that Edoga would be there at the left guard spot. That is a fact. If in fact that Tyler Smith can't go, then Edoga will be the left guard. The backup likely will be either Bass or maybe even Awesome Richards in that situation.
I would not rule out Brock Hoffman.
Brock Hoffman's another one. I mean, just happened to go by on my way to do the break this morning, and they were practicing. And as you walk into the studio, I took a peek out to my left and just watched for a second as I'm walking. And Hoffman was there at the guard spot. at the center spot. So yeah, they're getting him ready for center, guard, whatever he has to play. But yeah, they can't trust all these guys. And if Tyler Smith's out, well, like I say, Edoga, and then we'll see who's behind, whether it's Bass or Hoffman in that role.
And look, we got to talk to Jerry Jones on Tuesday on 105.3 The Fan, and I asked him, where is an area of the team where maybe you'd still be in the hunt for some depth that you might be out there searching? And he acknowledged it like we all kind of feel like, is that it's the offensive line. The Cowboys need more depth there. Currently on the active roster, not including the practice squad, they have 3 backup offensive linemen. One of them is strictly a guard in TJ Bass. It was also a rookie, undrafted free agent. The other is a 5th rounder, Awesome Richards, who I think has some potential, but is not there yet. And then the other guy you have, the only veteran presence you have, and somebody who's got some position flexibility, is Chuma Edoga, who looked really rough in training camp, to be honest, especially at tackle.
Yeah.
Which looked a little better inside at guard, so that's a little comforting. But with your left tackle banged up, I mean, let's say worst case scenario, Tyron Smith's ankle swells up like a grapefruit in the next day, and all of a sudden he can't go and Tyler Smith can't go. You might be looking at Chuma Edoga at left guard and Awesome Richards at left tackle.
Yeah, I think
to
so.
Start off the year.
Yeah, I think so.
This was already this trench battle. The Giants' defensive line with Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams on the interior, those two guys. And then you've got, Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari and the way that they're able to rush the passer. This was already going to be a matchup in the game that I felt like was going to stress the Cowboys. It was one of the areas of this matchup that I felt like, man, that's an area where the Giants might be able to get them a little bit. I think all the other matchups, position versus position, their receivers versus your corners,
right?
Your receivers versus, I felt like just about every other matchup tilts Dallas's way in this game. But man, this trench battle was one that I didn't feel confident about. And now if the left side of your line is banged up, now I think you're starting to look at that can be, if things don't play out the way you want, that can be the first domino that gets pushed over that then has a huge impact on the rest of your offense and takes away a lot of your advantages. So this is an area of concern right now, Brian.
Yeah, and good luck finding offensive linemen out there. That's it's crazy that anybody that to me was a veteran guy that people were kind of talking about before training camp that never got into a camp all summer. Well, those guys become emergency guys on your board. But man, you just do not want to. I mean, if you had to, go into and trying to poach a practice squad player, that maybe could be a better long-term kind of a thing, because it might be a little bit of a younger player, somebody you liked. But going out and getting a veteran guy, that's just no bargain right now. I mean, we talked about Jason Peters, and is Jason Peters a guy that would be, 2-3 game kind of a bridge? Yeah, sure. But you talk to people in the organization, they also kind of feel like, well, that ship sailed, but does your situation, on the offensive line with Brock Hoffman and others, Awesome Richards, I mentioned, Bass, with all these young guys, are you setting yourself up for some failure? I personally, I don't have a problem with TJ Bass. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm the only one in the building that watched him for 3 preseason games not give up a pressure. And they were, there was a couple of times where they were playing against starting offensive linemen, at least first 2 series of the game, and he got opportunity and another opportunity and more opportunity. Maybe Edoga all of a sudden things figure out and smooth out and he's able to play the guard spot and everything's okay. I don't know. I didn't see and I'm not going to act like I watched every single practice, but the 10 or so practices that I did get to watch, I wasn't impressed. I was not impressed. And so to me, if you said, well, and coaches will always do this. Coaches will go with the veteran guy just because it's the veteran guy, just because the guy's played in NFL games, but that's the experience factor. I don't know if it's necessarily the best case scenario if in fact that Tyler Smith can't go.
Yeah, I mean, this is something where, this is Joe Philbin really leaned into this. He's obviously not here anymore. It's Mike Solari now. But, this is a discussion that we used to have with Joe Philbin over the years when he was here, where you felt like maybe this guy was a better player than, you thought the younger player was better than this veteran. But the line of thinking within the building, and I think it remains the same even with Joe Philbin gone, is, yeah, but I know this guy's not going to bust. I can live with.
Yeah, that's what coaches do every time.
Yeah,
they do that. They would rather
assignment sound.
Yeah, they would. They would rather go with what they think the known is as opposed to the unknown. We didn't know. Okay, if you really evaluated Tyler Smith at Tulsa like we did, you could see he was going to play tackle. You could see that he was a guy that was. Okay, this guy's going to have to work on his hands. He holds a little bit, technique's a little off. There were things you could identify with, but nobody knew how he was going to play left tackle last year. And they threw him out there and he played left tackle. He played at a pretty nice level. Wasn't perfect. Led me to believe that hey, maybe you could let Tyron Smith walk here and everything will be fine. if you had legitimately grabbed a guard during the draft or you went and got one in free agency. But no, they didn't do that. So, Tyron Smith is, going to play left tackle, and I think he's going to be fine. Is he what he was 5 years ago? Absolutely not. He's a good offensive lineman. At one time, he was a great offensive lineman. He's a good offensive lineman now. So, that's the thing. I mean, we were talking with Zach Martin today on our show, 105.3 The Fan. Zach Martin showed, every Thursday. And first one, he's singing the praises of Terrence Steele. And you feel good. As good as you feel about the right side is as bad as you feel about the left side right now with what's going on with the injury stuff. But that just shows you, I mean, they threw Terrence Steele out there, and as much as I gnashed my teeth and all this stuff about him playing, kid did all right, and he's done all right for himself. And I asked Zach Martin the same question today. I mean, like, what is it with you two? And it looks like you guys fit hip to hip and secure and this, that, and the other. He goes, oh no, man, this guy does it down in, down out every single time, consistently. And so that's what you're trying to figure out, on that other side. You're trying to get that consistency. But yeah, right now that's really, up in the air. The one thing that I think that, since training camp, at least Tyron Smith and Tyler Smith have got to work together over there. They have got to work together where, Zach Martin was not in camp, but the fact he feels so confident in him and Terrence Steele working together, that makes you feel a lot better than what's going on that left side for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, like, if you look outside the left side, like the stability right now clearly would be center, right guard, right tackle feels a little more stable than everything else. But you still have some questions at just about every spot. I mean, they're not the same questions as the left guard having a hamstring strain and Tyron Smith, not only with an ankle, but you're also just wondering what level can Tyron Smith even play at anymore. We just don't know. It's not even like a question of, well, he's got to prove he can still do it. It's just you don't know what level he can play at because we've seen him play so sporadically, and there's always a context explanation for why he played poorly recently. Last year it was, well, he's playing right tackle. He was coming off injury. A little bit before that, it was, he got worked in the San Francisco playoff game, but man, he had COVID. He was a COVID out. He was probably having trouble recovering. So we don't know what that answer is. But Tyler Biadasz, we heard him jawing at people on the field in Oxnard, for late chips or whatever else. And he would say, you could hear him from where we're at saying, I'm hurt. Like, stop screwing. I mean, he's been banged up during camp.
The ankle. He's dealing with that ankle. Yeah.
Zach Martin missed a ton of time at camp. Now, he was working with Duke Manyweather the whole time, but he's missed the team reps. And then right tackle, Terrence Steele's coming off an ACL. It feels very just unstable right now against a really good Giants front. Right there, that front four is really intimidating. And so as we head into this game, Brian, do you think we see maybe more Rico Dowdle? Is Dowdle in there as one of the better pass protecting backs? Do they have him in there more? Do they go some max protect stuff? Do they do things to, shift help over to the left side of the line? What do you think the response is? Even if you have Tyron and Tyler playing, what do you think the response is to two guys who are clearly banged up on that side of the line?
To me, Bobby, I feel like that if the Cowboys, it's going to be about controlling the front. You're absolutely right. But the Giants have two rookie cornerbacks that are going to play in this game. When you talk about with Trey Hawkins, and then you also talk about with Deonte Banks, And so to me, I know there's always the thing about balance, and I know McCarthy wants to run the football, and I think he's going to try and run the ball on the edge. I really, really do. I think that's kind of where they're going to try and make livings, is get the ball to the edge and then see if they can get it outside the tackle box and make some quick hitting plays that way. Trying to manhandle the Giants inside, I don't think is the best recipe, especially if Adoga is the left guard.
Yeah.
But to me, man, if you could find a way to protect in this game, I will absolutely take my chances with the 3 Cowboy receivers, having to deal with Trey Hawkins, Deonte Banks, and then also dealing with Adoree Jackson in the slot. I think there's some plays to be made against those guys, and especially with all the crossing stuff. The one thing that, and talking to the people with the Giants about their situation, stuff like that, these are young corners. They've got a lot of ability, but they don't have a lot of experience. And that's the thing that kind of worries them, especially against the Cowboys receivers. Can the Cowboys hit them with some off-shoulder throws or back-shoulder throws? Can they run crossing routes? Can they separate? The Hawkins and Banks both are press man players. We know what Wink Martindale is as a blitzer. He is going to test this Cowboys offensive line, but you mentioned it. He is also going to test the running backs in blitz pickup. So, but if Dallas shows that they can't, if the Giants don't have to blitz and are able to get home and get pressure without blitzing, this could be a long night for the Cowboys. This could be a very long night. But if they somehow, some way pick up or secure their fronts and Dak has get the ball out quick like we've seen, there's some plays to be made on the outside against this secondary.
You're listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, let's take a closer look here at the Giants as we head into this game. I know you've gotten a chance to do a little bit of study on them.
Yeah.
We just talked about the trench battle on this side of, the Cowboys offensive line versus what the Giants bring on the defensive line. You've already mentioned the secondary, how the Cowboys probably have an opportunity to take advantage of a lot. You've got 2 rookies out there, one of them who's just playing at Old Dominion and is
he's a long, rangy guy. I mean, he fits. But what happens is he's the guy that when you watch inside stuff, the routes, the drags, the ends, anything breaking inside, that's a little bit of a problem for him. So, yes, the Cowboys' offense, to me, in the West Coast is predicated now on trying to create separation. Whether it's the crossing routes, running guys through trash, picks, screens, whatever you want to call them, whatever you want to do to get routes open. I think the Cowboys, that's their game now. They want to give Dak Prescott as many open throws as they can. So, yes, the Giants could play right into your hands if it turns into a man game and now you're running these corners through trash.
Well, if we look at the other side of this trench battle and what the Giants' offensive line has, it was a unit that last year had a ton of questions about it, and it's still not completely rebuilt. It remains to be seen what Evan Neal can become. He had his struggles last year, but he was a really highly regarded offensive tackle coming out of Alabama. A lot of offensive tackles have trouble their first year, so this is year 2 for him. He might step up. Andrew Thomas is one of the best tackles in football. He's really, really good. I know you really like their rookie center, John Michael Schmitz. That was a guy that you were high on during the draft process. We talked about him a lot. Is this an offensive line, you think, though, with the Giants that maybe it's a little before their time, like in terms of they're still coming into their own? This probably, maybe by the end of the season, we're talking about a unit that could give the Cowboys some problems. But this first game feels to me, at least, like this is still advantage Cowboys with their pass rush and what they can do with Micah Parsons.
Well, it's going to be, Bobby, I think it's going to be about can you stop the run first. I think with Saquon Barkley and even with Matt Jones, with Daniel Jones, way back in the Jacksonville history of wide receiver Matt Jones, Arkansas.
Arkansas quarterback.
But Daniel Jones, Daniel Jones, to me, this is where the questions, the Giants are struggling inside. The Cowboys have their issues inside. And I say this, John Michael Schmitz coming out of Minnesota, I really, really like. But John Michael Schmitz, as athletic as he is having trouble with power. And he's having trouble with sustaining power. So let's see what happens with Hankins. Let's see what happens, with Osa or Mozzie, anybody that gets an opportunity to try. Because he is, like I say, he can move and position stuff, But if you get him with power, you shock him, it kind of slows him down a little bit. And he's not as good with the sustain. He's trying his best. He's trying to be more vocal from what I've heard, trying to be more of a, commanding in the inside as the center and to be able to communicate things. We'll see how that all plays out for him. But they're struggling at the guard spot. And I think with you look at the guards that they have, it's been a little bit of a Russian roulette, if you want to say, okay, I know it sounds terrible, but it's kind of like it really is. They're trying to kind of find out, what they got with the guard.
Glowinski and Bredesen, yeah.
And Bredesen, yeah, absolutely. And who is going to start? There's still those questions. Rookie center, now you've got, whoever starts, they might rotate guys, I was told, through the game. Just because they're really not really sure where they're at with all those.
That's usually what's the old line, Brian?
If you have five, you don't have one, kind of a thing.
Basically
something like that.
If you got four guards, you don't have any.
You don't have one, and that's really what they're dealing with right now. Is that they are trying to figure out what's going on side. And you mentioned Evan Neal. This is what I think is going to happen in the game, Bobby. I think the Giants are going to be a left-handed team in this game. And I mean a left-handed team in the way that they're going to run the football. And when I think they're going to challenge, if it's Sam Williams, who's nicked up, who hasn't practiced, he's missed some practice time. If he plays somehow, how long can he play with the turf toe? But they're going to test Williams. They're going to test Armstrong. They're going to test whoever plays right end for the Dallas Cowboys. And they're going to test the right end, and they're going to test on the run, on the edge, if Diggs is willing to step up and make some plays. When teams were able to run the ball against the Cowboys, remember how it was? Everything was going to that side. It was, nobody's going to run the ball at Tank Lawrence because Tank Lawrence is damn good playing the run. You've got Van Der Esch, those guys. I mean, they are going to have to win on that right side of the Cowboys defense. They cannot get hooked. They can't get cracked. They can't get second level blocked. Whether it's Clark or Van Der Esch, somebody is going to have to play downhill. Safeties in the alley, whatever they have to do. But they are going to challenge the right side of the Dallas Cowboys defense in this game with Saquon Barkley. And, maybe we'll see with a Darren Waller. We'll see. Will they line him up? Will they just try and, big body on that edge and try and get the ball out to the outside? But they're not going to. It's not smart running the ball at Tank because he knows how to play the run. You could get and we'll see on the outside too. How much you're willing to get Gilmore involved in the run game. Is he willing? He's a smaller guy. Is he willing to step up? But I have a feeling it ain't going to be at Tank. It's going to be the opposite way. But this team likes to get the ball out quick if they can. They've really, really worked on that. And so getting the ball out quick, misdirections. They like to play with 11 personnel, and they like to take their wide receiver, Paris Campbell, who plays a little bit in the slot, maybe move him around. You might see him in the backfield. Maybe like what they do with Turpin with the Cowboys. The jet sweeps, backfield with Barkley. You don't know. I mean, a lot of different things that the Giants could do to try and get Paris Campbell the ball.
Which is more just in the passing game, because you just obviously covered what Barkley can do and some of those things.
They could throw Barkley the ball too, by the way.
Yeah.
The screens, the swings. That's, and again, we talked about Darren Waller in this game.
Barkley's talked about. Barkley dropped about 6 pounds. I was reading an interview he did. He dropped about 6 pounds this season, specifically because he wanted to have more of an impact as a pass catcher.
Yeah.
He wanted to be, more nimble and be able to contribute in that regard. But we already know what Barkley can do. We know Daniel Jones is, he's one of the more athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. Honestly,
he scares me. The all of a sudden it's drop back, things are covered, it's 3rd and 7, and he runs for 15.
And he's fearless. He's fearless. He's one of the toughest quarterbacks in the NFL.
No question.
I know there's a lot of people who want to, downplay Daniel Jones, and I don't think Daniel Jones is a top 10 quarterback or anything like that. But two of the traits that stand out about Daniel Jones and have even before last year when he started having success: incredibly athletic, incredibly tough. He will stand in there and he'll take hits. He'll take them and he'll get right back up and he'll deliver the ball through a hit. He'll lower his head.
Well, he did get knocked out in a Giants game. Jabril Cox got him one time. Remember they tried to run him on the goal line, and he got whacked in the head, and
like
he was
concussed him.
Yeah, sure did.
About the only play Jabril Cox made, I think, during his entire time here in Dallas. But we already know those aspects of it. In terms of the pass catchers, which of these do you think challenges Dallas more? The ability of the tight end duo, Waller, Daniel Bellinger, a guy Bellinger that we talked a lot about during the draft show. The type of track star speed that you have in a Paris Campbell and a Jalen Hyatt, does that stress Dallas more? Or is it these shifty open field players, a guy like Sterling Shepard and Wan'Dale Robinson?
We had Kim Jones on from
She's great.
Kim used to be on the NFL Network. Now she's like Newsday, Giants. She's a Giants reporter, so she watches the team every day. Kim said something to us, to the G-Bag Nation, we had her on, that she goes, I don't think I'm exaggerating here, but I want to say 85 to 90% of the balls that were thrown in Darren Waller's way, he caught. She said, she goes, I'm sorry, I don't want to sound like I'm exaggerating, but I think it was 85 to 90% of the balls that were thrown Darren Waller's way were caught. That kind of stuff worries me. How do you play Darren Waller? How do you play him, Curse? Do you switch off? Is Curse gets a look? Oh, maybe it's Van Der Esch. Oh, maybe it's Clark. Oh, maybe it's Jordan Lewis. Oh, maybe it's Bland. Do you give him different looks? How do you play against him? Waller scares me a lot. Now, they'll tell you that Hodgins, Slayton, and Campbell will be the 11 personnel guys, with Campbell being in the slot. Watch a lot of movement for him. Next thing you need to say is, okay, the downfield player is Hyatt. He's the one. If things get a little crazy, you max protect, and now you let the ball fly. What happens? Catch, interference, maybe a PBU.
Brian, I was downstairs in one of the hotels in Indy watching Jalen Hyatt prep. I was standing right in front of him watching
Cat can run
40.
Yeah.
It is one of like 2 or 3 guys I've ever seen in my life up close that when he ran, he looked blurry. Like in front of your face, he looked blurry. That's how fast he is. That's tough. If you somehow get a Hyatt matched up on a Diggs cannot run with Jalen Hyatt.
No.
And if they can protect long enough, he can burn you. That's why, like I said, and you mentioned, Hodgins there and Slayton, and they're bigger parts of it. That's why I was just curious about the specific skill sets. Does the tight end skill set, the track star skill set, or the joystick skill set of those other guys concern you the most? Because for me, it's just the track star speed. I don't know that there's anybody that can run with Paris Campbell and Jalen Hyatt if the Giants are able to protect for long enough.
Yeah, that's, and I'm listen, if the Cowboys go out there and smoke all these guys, I guarantee you the comments are like, you guys oversold this crap, No, I'm just, we're just having a conversation here.
They can shut it down. We're just putting it out there.
I'm just telling you,
the ability to do.
Exactly. The one thing Hyatt has been able to do is run vertically and get past people. You see clips of every day, during training camp, every day he was running past somebody.
How big is Malik Hooker in this game then?
Huge, because they're going to need somebody. They're going to need somebody, whether they shade it to one side or the other, but they're going to need somebody in the back end to be able to have some range. I've been super, super critical of Malik Hooker. This is a game he can absolutely shut me up. Or it could be like, hey, I kind of told you, here's why you need a safety with a little range. But you're right. These guys can run past the Cowboys' corners. And that's the thing I worry about. The third down and there's 3rd and 7 and you get a defensive holding. You get a illegal contact because you're not playing with really good technique. I was asked that today. I was on Cowboys Break with Ambar and Patrick Walker and Derek. And they asked me, well, what's the one thing that can make this team, this defense go from really good to elite? I said, eliminate hands to the face, unnecessary roughness, defensive holding, pass interference. How many times on third down have we seen them get off the field and then on the other side of the field, there's a defensive holding or illegal contact or some BS penalty like that? It's 3rd and 7. They get off the field, good pressure, ball's thrown away, and then the referee, Adrian Hill, who's the official this week, illegal hands to the face, defense, and you're like going, damn it, that kind of thing. And they, that's what's going to take them from being a really, really good defense to elite defense if they eliminate the crap like that.
You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, it is now time for our Dean Julia Love of the Star mailbag. We got a lot of questions in this week.
Thanks to everybody here, again by that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank
you guys so much.
And I think this is the first time we've gotten this a question from Craig Boyd.
Okay.
Craig Boyd here submitted his question, and it's a good one to kind of launch off with. Would love to get your guys' prediction for the season before it starts. Nothing is for certain, but how far do you think they can actually go? Now, Brian, this is obviously a broad question. Yeah. So if you don't have a specific record or anything else, that's fine.
I'm somewhere between 11 and 6. I'm between 11 and 6 and 10 and 7, something like that.
What are some general expectations and predictions you have then for the macro for the Cowboys this year? Maybe how you think the offense will perform, what you think will the defense be able to sustain the turnovers that they've had for consecutive years? Like what are some of your just general outlooks that you believe will be true about the team outside of just the record?
I don't know I think the offense has got tremendous skill players. I really do. There's so much questions now with the offensive line. I think this team is only going to be as good as the offensive line. If there's injuries, if there's problems, if there scheme problems where they're not doing, things aren't fitting, they're not protecting, I really do believe this offense has got the receivers, they've got the tight end, they've got the quarterback. This offensive line, if they're not capable, and this team gets in a lot of bad situations because A, they can't run the ball, and B, because they can't pass protect. My 10-win, 11-win season will probably be a moot point, if you want to be honest with that. I think defensively, they've got to prove that they can absolutely choke the run. They always say, hey, it's a privilege to rush the passer. You've got to find a way to put teams in the situations where you can rush the passer. I think the secondary's got a lot of promise to it. I think the pass rushers could be really good, but they've got to find a way to make sure that they do not get killed in the running game. I think the schedule is difficult. I think this is a 10 or 11 win season for the Cowboys. I don't think it wins the division, but I don't think this division is something that the Philadelphia Eagles run away with. I don't think this is a 14-win Philadelphia Eagle team. I feel like that it's probably going to be a division that's very, very close. From if the Commanders figure out things with Sam Howell, they're going to be a much improved team. The Giants, we're going to see them first out of the gate. I think they've improved their skill. I think this division is going to be very, very tough. Yeah. I wouldn't surprise me if this division is won with 11 wins. It won't surprise me one bit if that's the case. I think everybody's got a difficult schedule. Kansas, does the Eagles pick up the Chiefs, right, as their difficult game, or the 17th game? Okay. So that's where I say we. Cowboys get the Chargers, Kansas City and Philadelphia. So there's going to be, but they really play the same schedule, the same teams, basically. So I could see 11 wins winning this division. But I with the Cowboys, I say 11 or 10. I think maybe closer to 10 wins, 10 and 7 maybe with this team.
Yeah, I think around 10 or 11 is a good bet, and I think that, look, one of the predictions I have right now for this season is that, if you want to just talk about player specific, is I really think Micah Parsons can get 20 sacks this year. I was on Media Mash on DallasCowboys.com on Thursday, and Clarence Hill and I were chatting about it too, and like Clarence said, like I've been at training camp since 1997 around here, and I'm telling you, like, that's one of the more dominant training camps I've seen anybody have.
He was unreal. He really was unreal.
And that's the thing is that he's always won with being a freak athlete. This training camp felt like, oh no, he's developing real tools now, and that's the thing that I think Micah Parsons, as long as you don't get the burnout you got at the end of the year, he can threaten 20 sacks this year.
I said this on the break again a couple days ago. I think Micah Parsons is only as good as Dan Quinn will allow him to be. And I say that in a way that Dan Quinn needs to figure out, if people take Micah Parsons out of the game, then those other 10 have got to find a way to win. And that's on Dan Quinn. But it's also on Dan Quinn to make sure that Micah Parsons is not seeing double and triple teams every time he rushes the passer. Michael will not complain about his rush, but if he's having to face 2 or 3 guys every single time, that's going to be tough. That's the thing that wore him down in the second half.
Yep.
And what he did was he tried to add more body armor. He did. He's working with his hands. He's talking to guys like Andrew Whitworth. He's trying to figure out how to break guys down. So, yeah, but Micah is only as good, in my opinion, as Dan Quinn will allow him to be. And again, that's moving him around, but making sure that it's just not, the whole defense isn't focused on Micah Parsons. That there's others that are involved to try and carry the load.
Next question here from Garrett Jeffcoat. Who do you think plays a bigger role in this offense? I assume for the whole season, not just in this game. So this will be for the whole season. Who do you think plays a bigger role in this offense? KaVontae Turpin or Deuce Vaughn?
It's a good question.
It is. Because they can fill similar roles as gadget players, obviously, and smaller guys. My first inclination is to say, actually, I think it's Deuce Vaughn. Because I think Deuce Vaughn is going to get used in the screen game. I think he's going to be used as a threat in the passing game from time to time. And obviously a guy that they can use on draw plays and some other things. I think that my best guess is that most games Deuce Vaughn will play more snaps than KaVontae Turpin on offense.
I agree with that. I think there's going to be certain packages, and they're going to figure out, much like they finally figured out about Tony Pollard, with the Kellen Moore administration was late to figuring out what Tony Pollard was. But I think they're going to come up with some packages and stuff but we've seen Turpin play a lot more offense. We've seen him. He's been more involved in some 11 personnel stuff and things like that. So, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, as Stephen Jones likes to say, it's going to be more Deuce Vaughn.
Next question here from Joe T. Is this timing-based offense similar to what Dak ran as a rookie? So, look, there's a timing component to, just about every offense, obviously, and steps and everything else. The quarterback drop back, the receiver steps in their route, everything else. Like these are aspects that exist in every offense. The offense that Dak came into in 2016 was Scott Linehan, who is a single back guy and a guy who came up in sort of the Eric Coryell concepts and a lot of 11 personnel. That's where Kellen Moore got a lot of his influence. And Jason Garrett, working with Norv Turner, which was some Eric Coryell stuff. This is going to be very different. Not very different in terms of logistically, but West Coast and Eric Coryell concepts are different ideas about how to run offense.
Yeah.
And I honestly think, Brian, that's part of why they had some issues at times last year. You would say it that when you watch the game, at times it looked like it wasn't even a scheme. It just looked like it was a hodgepodge of plays, and I think that's because that's what it was.
Oh, a grab bag.
I think Mike McCarthy was trying to infuse West Coast concepts into what Kellen Moore's Eric Coryell type of offense was, and you got this confused, collection that they put out there every week. But no, this is going to be different than what Dak ran in 2016, I think.
I think a lot different. Yeah, I think it's more about they're more concerned now with, you mentioned you used the word steps, and they're talking about wide receiver steps and in route, and they're also talking about quarterback steps in getting set up and then letting the ball. Footwork for the quarterback is something that we've heard far more under this new regime when it's talking about offensive coordinator with Brian Schottenheimer, more about quarterback footwork than any time during Dak Prescott's previous 7 years in the league.
Yep, and so it's definitely a focus for them. I don't know how obvious it's going to be on a snap-by-snap basis what's different, but I think when you dig into the details, you'll see, oh, okay, yeah, this doesn't look exactly the same to what they've done in the past.
No.
But Dak Prescott's going to have a lot of control here, too, at the line of scrimmage, and so...
Yeah, it's interesting because I know you were in the locker room today, and I think you got CeeDee Lamb saying he kept the word, everybody was talking was communication. I hope that those receivers are men of their word when it comes to communication, knowing where to be and stuff like that, because every Dak Prescott interception is going to get scrutinized, every one of them. And some of those are on guys like CeeDee Lamb and others for not finishing routes.
Yeah,
or not
CD took when we talked to him in training camp, he took responsibility for a lot.
He absolutely. That's what I'm saying. So for them to all be on the same page and Dak throwing to an area thinking that CeeDee Lamb is going to be inside and he's not, that again, I don't have a problem with interceptions. I really don't with Dak because I understand how he's going to play this sometimes. The problems I have of his interceptions are when he doesn't see somebody, when he doesn't read it right. That's when I'm like, that's on the quarterback. The balls that clang off Noah Brown and Dalton Schultz and CD doesn't run the right route, that's on those guys. But Dak's going to get blamed for it. The ones that I'm going to be concerned of is if all of a sudden that he drops back and all of a sudden you got one of these, the giant, cornerbacks, Adoree Jackson is standing right there, wait, just you throw it right to him, or Bobby Olereke is, the linebacker's buzzing in the flat and boom, the ball hits him in the chest and you're going, well, wait, he's got to see that. When the interceptions are because quarterback fault of not seeing, those are the ones you should absolutely be concerned about.
Which those are when Dak makes those are usually the times I feel like when he's pressing a little bit and it gives him tunnel vision. It's usually he's tunneled in on a receiver coming across the field and he misses somebody just sitting there, right? And those are the ones that he needs to clean up the most. I think he knows that.
He does.
When those happen, I feel like it's usually in moments where he's pressing, he's locking in on a guy, he's trying to make something happen, and he tunnels in and he misses the guy just squatting. Yeah. And it's happened a few times. It happened more last year than it had in years past, I felt like. So hopefully that's something that gets cleaned up. We will have one more episode for you guys this week before the Cowboys-Giants game. We'll have official predictions there, some more takeaways. Hopefully we'll have some updates on where things stand with the injury report. I will be in New York on Saturday and then through the weekend for the Cowboys game there. So we'll have reports for you next week as well in terms of the vibe in the stadium and how things played out. But for Brian Broaddus, I'm Bobby Velt. We will talk to you guys again next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.